Hello, hi Kan, how are you?
Hi Manik, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well as well, Kan. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It really means lot to us, and I'm really excited to have a conversation with you.
Same here. Thank you for having me over.
Right, Kan, we'll start with the introduction. But before that, I'll introduce what we do at Second Act and what's the why of this live session. So the idea came when we were speaking, when we were reflecting on my late teens and early 20s. I was okay, just figuring out uh, what do I really want to do. I was looking for a lot of external validation. I had a lot of self-doubt, lot of struggles, and then I thought, okay, in retrospect, what are the things or what kind of platform did I want? So we're having a discussion and we thought, okay, why not start something for the youth? Because we did not have this kind of privilege or this kind of platform. But now, right now, we have the resources. Why not create something to help the youth to navigate through their lives for better? And we named it as Voices of Youth. We invite people who have made a lot of progress in their careers or who have figured it out, and for people who have a second act. So yes, that's the idea. And thank you so much, Karan. We'll start with your introduction and then we'll proceed to today's conversation.
Surely. Thank you for the introduction. I think it's a great step. I mean, while thinking about it, also, taking forward the conversation we had earlier, I was just reflecting if such a platform could be really helpful, would have been really helpful when I was in that phase of, as you described. So
Absolutely.
my introduction, primarily, I have been working on this social enterprise called Oorjaa since the last 6 years. I'm an engineer. I passed out in 2015, computer science engineer, and in my last college year, in my last semester, second last semester, I initiated this idea. So there was this. We've had this conversation before, but I would
Yes.
like everybody here listening and also to hear. So I was working, volunteering at NGO. That's the first organization I engaged with in the sector. In Chandigarh itself, it was working on extending primary education for underprivileged children. And while I was there, there were for 7, 8 months, I volunteered there, and there was this almirah full of old and new resources that people had donated. And so even at during that whole tenure of 8 months, that those resources were just lying there. So we thought, like, why not create a platform in which NGOs can share resources with each other. And we like to use the term social purpose organizations for which becomes an umbrella term for any kind of organization whose primary purpose is social welfare and betterment of society. And that's how we started out from. We used to collect old resources from people, from volunteers used to go from sector to sector in Chandigarh and house to house and
Wow.
just collect old resources. And we met a lot of organizations also and tried to understand their needs and tried to cover those needs also with the resources we collected. Slowly and steadily, we came up with a model called 𝐕𝐨𝐢𝐬𝐴𝐻, which is still active, which primarily allows a donor, an individual donor, to go onto the website, choose an organization they wish to support. We're currently partnered with 65 organizations, and choose a resource that they wish to give to that organization. Could be grocery items or sanitary items or stationery items, and we get those resources delivered on their behalf to the organizations and send the donor a utilization report of how the resources were being used by the organizations. And apart from, our primary goal is to bring together the different key stakeholders of the social sector, which are the donors, including institutional as well as individual donors, and social purpose organizations, obviously, and volunteers, and just create that collaborative, interdependent atmosphere within this sector and the organizations we support, and try to help them build their capacities.
Beautiful, Karan. I think So there's something someone told me that if you and I individually can do a lot of things, imagine what we can do if we come together. And the kind of platform that you have been building, like a collaborative platform and so much transparency. For example, you have been sending utilization reports to the donors. I think that's really very, really good practice for any kind of organization. And I really appreciate that thought, and I really appreciate the concept and the idea and the work that Oorjaa has been doing. But can tell me, how does a person who studied in a really good university, who studied engineering, how does a person convince their parents, to not pursue engineering anymore, which has a lot of potential financially, but may not align with what we really want to do. So, because we spoke a lot about the support of parents and friends, so how is it for you? Maybe convincing your parents. Did they ever say कि ये तो क्या कर रहा है? तो engineer कर, be an engineer or do something in the field of engineering. So, how did you convince your parents and maybe other people who are close to you?
So I was very lucky, I think, on that front, and I have a lot of people from the same sector who've not had the same kind of experience or backing from their parents. But for me, it was in my second year I realized that this is something I can't do. So when I realized that I can't go down this path, there was in your head, you get a lot of clarity in your head that this is one option that needs to be scrapped off. And I didn't know that I would get into the social sector then, but slowly and eventually I started exploring different things, and this is something that just pulled me towards it. And when I started the organization, I obviously I had a placement offer, but I had told my parents that I want to explore this. And I had 7-8 months before that, placement offer got it wasn't on the table anymore. And so I just got into it and started doing it and enjoying it. And I live with my father, so I think the best thing that I possibly did was enroll him in the organization itself. So he's also a partner at the
Yeah.
organization. So he's also accountable for it. And anyway, like even if I had not done that, he has been one person who's been fully supportive of everything I've done in the last 6 years, and even before that. And I think the other thing is my sister is also in this sector, and she paved the way for my parents understanding the idea of it, because they don't have that kind of background, or any nobody from our family ever has worked in this sector. So she was the front runner and carried the bait, and I just held it and from her. And so that made it, I think, relatively easy. And being the younger sibling, I think that makes a lot of things easy if your elder sibling is taking all the burden and the brunt of your parents. So thirdly, I think my even my mother, like they've been fully supportive throughout these 6 years. It's crucial. And when you hear stories of people whose parents are not supporting them, then you realize how
Yeah,
lucky
yeah.
and privileged you are. And especially in this sector, because it's not easy, because I still don't have a sustainable lifestyle, and I don't can't really I'm not ideally in this position I'd want to be, or somebody of my age would want to be. But at the same time, that just keeping my thought and having belief in me and whatever I'm thinking about, like keeping it ahead of whatever ideas or vision they had for me, I think that's something that I've been really privileged for getting that.
Wow, really, really inspiring, Karan. And tell me something. So I'm sure when you decided, okay, engineering is something that I don't want to pursue, you must have had a lot of self-doubt, you must have put in a lot of thought in that and had, that sense of insecurity. Okay, what if I don't do well financially, or what if I don't do well with the organization? What if I fail? So, first question is, were there any kind of thoughts during that time? And a follow-up would be, how did you tackle all of that? Because right now, so I just turned 24, and my like day is full of self-doubt. I question a lot of things. Okay, if I'm doing something, am I doing it right? So I just want to understand, because you have been leading an organization since 6 years. How has it been for you, and how did you tackle all the negative thoughts?
So I think obviously the negative thoughts are still there. I'm not sure whether they'll ever go. Obviously, the frequency decreases as you gain confidence, in yourself mostly, and when you stop seeking validation from others or stop comparing yourself with others, then the frequency decreases. But it keeps moving on to something else, right? If I'm secure in my job, it will be something about my personal life. If I'm secure about my personal life, it could be about my job or something else. So it keep
Okay.
those thoughts will in my experience, they'll still come along. But I think the idea is that, right, like you rightly mentioned, how do you tackle them? And I think initially, obviously, the thoughts with respect to Oorjaa were primarily the thoughts that I had with respect to, which revolve self-doubt, were revolving around Oorjaa. And initially, in the first 2-3 years. And because there is no entrepreneurship experience, there was no social sector experience as such, and I just delved into it because I liked the idea and I liked the environment that I was getting into. And that's something that just kept pushing me, and I was meeting somebody really inspiring every day, the founders of these like wonderful organizations that they're working on and the causes that they're working on. I used to meet participants and understood my privilege. And I think that whole atmosphere environment was really it was a lot of reality checks also, but it was like I was like living, getting to experience new things every day. And I think that's the sort of career choice that I wanted to have also. I mean, working is good, but if you're working in an environment which you actually like, and it keeps pushing you, and pushing whatever capabilities you have, I think that's ideal. That's something that's ideal for me. And so I think in the first 3 years, after 3 years, I just realized that, okay, these are the gaps. I tried to be a little analytical, and that engineering side got out, that okay, let's be logical about it, and what are the
Yeah.
shortcomings, and just create an Excel sheet and just note down what you need to work upon and what you have in control. So, and it's really difficult to do that, especially the listing down things that you're good at, and mentioning them explicitly and having them in front of you really helped me. And I think helps a lot of people also. And so I just did that practice, and the next step I found myself taking is pursuing a master's in this sector, because I realized there are some certain knowledge gaps or skill gaps that I can cover. That's something in my control. There are some
Yes.
things that
Yes.
aren't in my control.
Yeah.
I need to learn to ignore them.
Yeah.
And obviously, at some point of time, different things come back, and come to front, and you realize that, okay, these are the things that you might have missed, and you go back to the drawing table and go back to that Excel sheet. I still have it, and I just try to add pointers to it, and just things that
Wow.
are I need to work upon. It's like, when you, in your daily work life, you have a list of things that you have to do, and obviously it's not you get to complete all those things in the same day, or maybe in the instant future, and near future, and in the next 2-3 days. But this process takes time, and when you realize, okay, I have to work on some one aspect of my life, be it like become financially stable or
Yeah.
become
Yeah.
fit for that matter. That's something right now I'm struggling with. So you just have to believe in the process and follow the process, and be a little patient about it. A lot, I think, happens with time, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to. I think the fact that if you're patient and if you just believing in it and believing in what you're doing, then I think it will slowly and steadily, those thoughts, you'll be able to control those thoughts basically.
Rightly said, Karan. And something that you mentioned, that there are things that are in our control, right? We need to control that. For example, you went for your master's in social work. Similarly, there are things that we cannot control, and we need to know, okay, how to distinct them, because I think a lot of people struggle with this thing. Okay, whatever I'm feeling, or whatever is the consequence of my something that I do, am I able to control it, right? So a lot of people cannot differentiate.
Yeah.
The founder of Second Act, Archana Datta, she was working with the She's working with two big companies, had a very successful corporate job, but eventually she left her job and started second act because she was interested in helping other people find their second act. And we had a lot of conversations around this thing, that what makes it worth it. So Karan, I want to ask you this because you have been working in a social sector. We have been working in a similar space on one of our projects, and
Yes.
I know what are things that makes it worth it. I don't want to talk about the project right now, but I want to ask you, okay, what makes it worth it? Is it the smiles of the people? Is it the text that you have been getting? Tell me what makes it worth it.
For me personally, I think there were stages of different motivations you find internally also and externally, that over the years, because it's been so long now. And
Yeah,
I think earlier I was of the opinion that that passion should be, that fire should always be there, and it should be of the same intensity. And when you help somebody, the first time you help somebody, it's a different feeling. And at a individual level or at an organization level, obviously every each and every one of us do it in our daily
yeah,
lives
yeah,
also. And but when you get to do that as work, and that's something that because it keeps happening day in and day out, that's also a different kind of high. And I guess something that worked for me also and still works for me. But at the same time, I think those motivations kept on evolving. And there were instances, one negative thought, like, since referring to the last question also, there were
yeah.
instances when I thought I don't really care deeply enough for the participants as much as I
Hmm.
should. But that's also a sign for me, or in a way a notification for me to alert me that, okay, I need to pull myself back and
Yeah,
look at from the eagle
on the
point of view.
track.
And yeah, and just understand that this is the priority, this is why I'm in it. So I think you tend to lose certain aspects of your nature also when you get into it. And but you learn new things also, and you I think become better as well. But I think after a while, that those are some motivations that are so inculcated in you after after experiencing it so much, that it just keeps you going. But apart from that, I think there are different stages for each motivation to just kick in. And at some point of time, it could just be a good conversation that you have with somebody. At some point of time, it could be your work in completing a target that you had for yourself or for your team. And at some point of time, it could just be like you're in a distribution drive, and somebody just comes up to you and appreciates what you are doing, and the participant comes up to you and appreciates what you're doing, and they tell you, please do more. And that's something that you also
Wow.
feel that, okay, we are contributing to somebody's life. And so I think that keeps on evolving. Those motivations keep on evolving. That's been my experience.
Beautiful, beautiful answer, and thank you so much for that. I loved your answer. So you've been doing you have been pursuing your dream of creating the kind, or maybe approaching your vision or going towards it. It's been 6 years. I believe it's been more than 6 years now. And one of the main challenges this generation, people in their late teens or early 20s, they face is they are not patient. They are not consistent. They because I think we have spoken about this earlier as well. The kind, they need gratification a lot of times, and finding validation from outside as well. So how did you not give in to these temptations? How have you been so patient? How have you been so consistent with the kind of vision that you have for Urja? How is it for you?
I would like to say that I've been always been fully devoted to Urja, and I've always been consistent, but that's not true. And there are instances in my life also where I've thought, okay, bas ho gaya yaar, aur nahi kar sakta, like especially after the first wave rather.
Okay.
So it was it's not been a smooth journey, but obviously I think also the fact that I'm still here says a lot, because I realize that you keep weighing your pros and cons of every decision you make in life, and if the pros are not, meeting the cons, you try to change and evolve, and you try to make certain changes to your life. One aspect of my life that really influenced me becoming a little more stable, and अब शुरू कर दिया तो खत्म है, एक तो stubbornness हो गया. I am very stubborn as a individual,
uh,
and वो तो है ही है, वो basic nature trait has been in me since since I remember. And but at the same time, with time, I've realized that I try to pull out myself from situations when I realize I'm being too stubborn. It's very difficult for me to do personally. My friends can vouch for that, but again, I try to do that. And but so that trait is there. But so I dropped a year after my 12th. I told you also, like in our last
yes, yes.
conversation. So that particular year, I was completely by myself, and I was preparing for all these competitive exams, and it वो होता है ना, जैसे I call it my जो राम का 14 साल का वनवास वाला बोलते हैं, वैसे वाला एक्सपीरियंस था मेरा. तो that
You
was
were in
one.
Bangalore, right? You were in Bangalore?
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad,
So
okay.
and the fact that I wasn't, acquainted with the uh, my surroundings, or the people I was meeting, I was meeting them for the first time, and a different, world altogether from Chandigarh to Hyderabad. It's to come to make it more clear, I think traffic rules are not followed there, and that was the biggest thing that I could possibly witness. So that year, it was like my routine was I would wake up in the morning at 6:30. I would study. I would go to my class. I would come back. I would spend some time with myself watching different watching a TV show or reading the newspaper or something like that. And I gave myself 2 or 3 hours every day in which I was just thinking and reflecting. And I was just 17 or 18 then.
Mhm.
So that's the period when you start that self doubt and that
Yes,
confidence thing,
yes.
as that stability, and you're trying to answer a lot of questions in your head that could be existential, also could be your life related also. And I think that 1 year that I experienced just gave me a lot to think about, and I a lot to think about myself, and in a way, what is the larger goal that I'm wishing for, what kind of life I wish to live, those kind of questions. And that had a huge impact on me, trying to if ensure that if I get into something, I do it to the best of my capabilities and do it for the long run. Obviously, when I if I'm not needed, if the organization is not needed, then I'll know, and the people I'm working with, the people I'm working for will let me know that. And there have been stages when I have felt like that. But again, there's some opportunity comes along, and we just try to push out of it and get better as an organization also. And I also try to keep improving myself as a person. So I think being patient and having, looking for the answers within yourself. Obviously, like, I'm not saying that be a loner, but I think that's something that if you've experienced on your own, and if that if even if for a restricted amount of time, and you're able to give those answers to yourself, that really helps.
Absolutely, I do agree with you, and I think this fact that you have been so passionate about Oorjaa, and even just agreeing for this live, I think it speaks a lot about you. It speaks a lot about your consistency, your passion, and your relentlessness for making this world a better place. Karan, I want to ask you. This field of the social entrepreneurship, it may not have that huge financial incentive, right? Compared with an engineering field or something. What gets you out of bed every day? It's been 6 years, more than 6 years of full job. Even today, let's talk about today. What got you out of bed today? What's your motivation right now?
I think it's the largest of things, like the question that we discussed, the point we discussed before also. It's those experience as well. having a good conversation, or just going out there and having targets in your head and achieving those targets. And at the end of the day, that's those different smiles or responses you get from participants. Sometimes they get angry also, but
Yeah.
that also you know makes us do better. So those, for me, those are the largest of things, and just the overall vision of Oorjaa. If I'm even if I'm doing it at a slow pace, I'm moving towards it. And then the smallest of things, like just having a checklist that these are the
Wow.
things that you have to do every day, and trying to achieve those. There are days, like, again, like every other human being, there are days for me also that, okay, I've had enough and I'm not sure if I
Hmm.
can continue. At the same time, I think just trying to pull myself back in, at during that time also, I just take time for myself and just trying to understand what's wrong and try to do better. And apart from that, I think I sleep well. I sleep really well, and
Yeah.
that's something. If you will tell me, Karan, now go and sleep, I can do that anywhere at any point of time. So I think, yeah, the only I won't call it a drawback, because it's something that I realized earlier on only when I started the organization, and it's a challenge that the sector faces as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
The financial aspect of it. So I won't call it a drawback. It's something that you need to be prepared for. I am also getting prepared for it slowly and steadily. I'm still in that still in that period where I'm trying to figure out different things, that how I can do that without compromising what we are doing at
Hmm.
Oorjaa. And so I think that's a part of a process. And also just keeping that belief in yourself and whatever vision you have with the organization.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people do want to go into this sector, but they're not sure. And I think even the educational institutes, like, how we have science or maths till 10th and 12th standard, they don't have much related to social development. They don't prepare you for that, or they don't give you an introduction to this world. So, Karan, I think we should do that. If you can give us an introduction, not an introduction, but a guide for a person who is passionate about social development, is passionate about social entrepreneurship, want to do something with it, but may not be able to find the right path for it. What would you advise to that person?
So I think 5 years ago, or rather 4 to 5 years ago, the scenario was like you said, that there were no resources available,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of not enough sufficient resources available. When you thought of social sector, you thought of TIS, and that's the only institute that you could possibly think of.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And but I think in the last 5 years it has really evolved, because obviously the funding landscape has also changed, and people are also getting more aware. A lot of people are coming from different backgrounds into the sector, like
yeah, yeah.
having gone through that time period and life of corporates, or even working for government agencies, and just then shifting to this sector. uh, I think now there are a lot of resources available, but saying that, yes, it's important that uh, somehow it is inculcated in the curriculum that we have at schools also. There were programs even at my time, like in 2007, 2008 also, we used to have uh, society-driven programs and
Yeah, yeah.
community programs in our school. But like
And
it
that's
was
because you
Vana.
went to one of the best schools in India, not even in Chandigarh.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah, true. I guess not everybody is as privileged, but at the same time, like currently also, I'll talk about a good school only, but a lot of new volunteers have come in from a top school in Chandigarh, who have this program, society community helping program, and they are performing really well in the organization as volunteers. And
Wow.
they're just kids. I think they're all aged between 13 to 15, or 13 to 16 rather. And that's lovely to see. That's wonderful to see also. And they come with a different kind of passion, because there's a lot of innocence there. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, absolutely.
a lot of volunteers take things for granted also. But these kids are, you can mold them, and it becomes a responsibility also as an organization, that what kind of experience you give them, and how they that's the view they'll have about the sector also when they go forward, irrespective of whether they choose a career in it or not. They can support the sector in different capacities, but I think that it's important that at that level they experience something that's for the first time they're experiencing it. So it needs to be engaging. It needs to be beautiful for them. Like I just try to relate with my first experience and how that made me feel, and try to reflect the same kind of experience for the volunteers as well. And I think apart from that, yes, if somebody is exploring a career, they need to be, very objective about it, because again, irrespective of whether you're thinking of starting your own organization or you're looking to, join another organization, you need to be objective about what are your needs and requirements in life.
Of
And
course.
yes, right now there is. This financial aspect has always been there, that since the CSO sector started, it's always been there that that this is a challenge that the sector faces, but it's only growing, and it's only
Yeah,
evolving, and
yeah,
it's becoming better also. I don't think that's the real challenge. I think the bigger challenge is that people have this idea in their heads that if I work in this sector, I'll always be happy. So I think
oh
that's a
wow,
myth. So I think that's a myth that needs to break also, that because it's like any other organization, and it's like any other sector you're working on, and you need to be, it's becoming more professional now. I'll give you an example. So we made our volunteers fill this volunteer form, feedback form, after a month of performance, and just to understand like where they are, individually, as well as you have to do a self assessment as well as a peer assessment. And in one form there were a set of subjective questions also, and in one form the response was, I was just here to help people. I don't know why I'm filling such long forms, and what is the use of it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that got me thinking that, okay, when I would go originally 6-7 years ago, when I would join an organization as a volunteer, in my head I wouldn't have to do the work, won't be a priority. The priority would be, okay, I'm doing it for the welfare of others. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
just want to, go for distribution drives, and I have that feeling of I'm helping others. But there needs to be structure to the
of
organization. There
course,
needs
of
to be,
course.
to become, for the organization to become better, it needs to be structured, and that's how the sector is evolving also. So obviously there are people with that mindset as well, and there are people who realize, who've been working in the sector for long. They realize that we need to become a little more stringent with our processes and become a little professional. There are aspects that we can learn from the corporate sector as well, and incorporate them. But yeah, coming back to that myth thing, I think that's something that needs to break in anybody who's looking to build a career in this sector. It's not that you'll always be satisfied and happy. I think that's something that you need to have and build rather intrinsically only, in whatever capacity or career that you're building, or the kind of life that you're living. But yes, I think the chances of that instant gratification are more. And but that's
Yes,
again,
agree.
that was so. But how many times will you feel happy after that?
Yeah,
I've been in
yeah,
this sector for 6 years, and now as much as I want to not take it for granted, there are instances when when some participant comes up and appreciates our work or what we are doing, and thanks us, then I feel that, okay, this happened yesterday and day before yesterday also. And so that frame of mind, if I'm not in the right frame of mind, I won't respond to it properly. So I don't think it's that straightforward that, okay, if you join the social sector, you'll be satisfied and happy for life. If we wanted to evolve, otherwise it will be the same, working in the limited scope, and working with limited capacities, and not really evolving and growing. So I think reality checks, and just some self-awareness about why you want to do this and how you want to do this, and obviously having that conversation from day one with your parents and peers, that, okay, this is what I'm exploring to do, and bringing them in that conversation, that this is how I want to build my life. And that's for any other career stream that you choose. And with this sector, yes, because financial aspect, our whole society structure right now is dependent on the financial
yes,
aspect of it.
yes,
It becomes even more crucial that you bring out a lot of data and have a lot of conversation before finally deciding to do it. And take your time. Who's in a hurry? Especially at that age, you're not in a hurry. You have all actually you have a lot of time to make such a decision, and
Yes.
you can experience other things and come back to the sector, or start in this sector and then experience other things.
This conversation just got very overwhelming for me because a lot of myths had been busted for me in our previous conversation or in other conversations as well. But I never thought I also had this same idea. Okay, people who are working in the social sector must always be happy, and I think it's a huge one that's busted for me, and I'm at loss of words to be honest because even for it just makes me think of people I have met previously, and I have always imagined, okay, this person has been working in a social sector. This person must be happy. They are following their passion. They're following, they're pursuing their dreams. One of the last things that I wanted to speak to you was about the insecurity. So now I'm sure your peers from back in the university, they must be working at really good jobs or studying in, maybe went abroad or for studying in various universities. And I think we spoke about this once before. Do you ever feel insecure that they have been working, such high-paying jobs, or is it the other way around? Do they maybe come to you and say, "यार तू तो you're doing such a good work, तो अपना कुछ कर रहा है, and you're creating such a an impact in the society." Which way is it? Is it your insecurity, or do they feel insecure about what they have been doing and maybe want to even shift or switch to this sector? And how do you handle that?
So I think in the first 3 years, both the instances have happened in the first 3.5 years of my journey. They used to happen a lot more, and I won't call it, like, for me, yes, I would call it insecurity that, if I'm comparing my life to somebody else's, and trying to see the good aspects in their life, and just looking at the good aspects and saying that, okay, wish I had that also.
Yeah,
There are instances that, when I look at somebody's progress and compare myself to them, but I'm able to hold that thought within my head and just throw it out. So I think that's connected to the first question that we asked. But when it comes to them, I'm not sure whether it's from a room of area of, sorry, insecurity or not, because I can't really judge that in a way.
yeah,
But there are instances that, there have been instances, especially in the first 3-4 years of my journey with Oorjaa, that people would come up to me that you're really lucky that, you're doing something that
yeah,
you want
yeah,
to do, and you're lucky that, you're working for something that can make you happy or satisfied. Again, that myth
yeah,
gets
yeah,
busted over time, and I think that gets busted for all of us when we're in the sector, and over time. But I think after that, people also got deep into their lives, and they also realize that they have to make the most of wherever they are,
yeah.
irrespective of whether they've started their own organization there, or they're working for somebody else, or irrespective of which sector they have chosen. And I think that's something that comes from reflecting within, that how what kind of a life do you want to live. So uh, both instances I've experienced, and I think that now also randomly it happens, but especially with my friend circle, uh, at this point of time, at this age that I'm at, it doesn't happen that much, and people also are into their lives, and initially it used to happen a lot.
What would you advise to Karan of the age of 18? What would you advise to that person? Or I think I'll reframe the question. Today's generation, because I think a lot has changed in when you were 18 and the generation, because I think it's majorly due to the introduction of social media, like not the introduction, but the access. Like, the
Yes.
access to social media or the mobile phones, it's very easy now. So, what would you advise? Because now you have been working with the kids of 13 or 14, and even working with volunteers who are around the age of 18, and I'm sure you observe a lot of things about them. What would you advise to them and anyone who is watching this? What would be your suggestions slash your recommendations to people who are still figuring out what they want to do, who are still going through a lot of challenges?
I think at that age, it's important. Firstly, it's important that you have belief and faith in yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the only person that who will always be there for you.
Yeah,
And so you need to just take that into account and have, make decisions accordingly also, because nobody will come to your aid, if further in life also, if you yourself don't believe
yeah,
in
yeah,
what you're doing and what you want to pursue. So I think that faith and belief is important, and it's very difficult to do at this age because there are a lot of noises and there are a lot of voices also all around you. And secondly, I think it's really important that the kind of people you choose to keep around you, because at that age we feel we're not in, we don't have control over that. But slowly and steadily, as we turn 23, 24, 25, we realize that we have control over that. And it's important that people who are pulling you down emotionally, mentally, or professionally, you don't need them around. And that's something that you need to take seriously as well. I mean, a lot of people get stuck in jobs because they don't have a good boss. And I have heard that a lot in my experience, even though I have not experienced that personally. Won't really. I mean, I can ask my volunteers whether they've experienced it, but yeah, so I've not been in that boat. But I think you when you choose a career path, also that also needs to be taken into account. Like, what kind of environment am I getting into, and what kind of people I'll be working with, because that can make or break your career as well. And you can go back years if you just get into something which is really negative, get into that environment and then realize, okay, this is negative, and you just, because you want that security also, and then you stay stuck in it for 2 3 years, and which is a very normal and common thing to have. And I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
that conversation is still going on, and that's something that's still debated up for debate. But it happens very often, especially in the corporate sector. And thirdly, I think uh, you need to build a path for yourself in a way that we tend to like, I remember when I only chose non-medical because my friends were doing it, or
Yeah.
I chose computer science engineering because I really enjoyed playing games. That was the only reason. So I didn't know C about coding. And so I just so that's something that you need to really reflect about. Am I good at it? Am I not good at it? And just accept it and move on. And either, if you really really want it, work on it and become better at it, or if you don't, if you think that's something that you can discard in your life, and then pursue something that is of more value. And lastly, I think opinions of others, and rather uh, lack of opinion of others also, that you need to be very objective about whom you choose as your mentor. Could be as explicit as that, okay, this person is my mentor, or could be your parent or guardian
Yeah.
who's guiding you throughout your life. You need to be really picky about it. You need to have the right person at your end, because every I've in my experience, everybody is there for you, or gives you the best of advice when either they have something in it for you or they really care about you. So you need to choose the latter, that people who really care about you, need to choose them, and just ensure that when you're in not in an environment or in a circumstance that you don't want to be in, they're giving you the right advice as well. And I think differentiating that objectivity need, the earlier it comes, the better it becomes.
Thank you, Gan. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been such an insightful conversation. And I think my biggest take back would be that, my the busting of that myth that people who work in social sector are always happy. But Gan, thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the luck, all the good things, all the success for Urja and whatever you choose to do in your future. Thank you, Gan.
To you. Thank you so much. Thank you.